What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the three-time award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, winner in 2012 of the Best International Blog Award given out by the Black Web Blog Awards. 2018 won the Innovation Award given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and in 2020, winner of the Internet News Award given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host conversations for fathers and dads that are co-sponsored by Dad Central and Dove Men Care. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And this is the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. It's Thursday evening, December 3rd. We're getting to the end of the year, but it don't matter what day, what year. We love having Thursday nights with these two ladies on, Aisha K. Staggers and Jill D. Jones, dropping knowledge bombs about what's going on in America. So let's get them on. Hello, ladies.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Ready for some fun?
Oh yeah.
Always.
I'm ready.
Always.
I'm ready to talk about it. You know, I've just been observing, and now we get a chance to speak on it, which is great.
Yes, very, very good. And we've got to hail up Jill Jones, because before we went live a few days ago, I always keep a track of what they're saying on Twitter, and I went on Jill's Twitter page and I saw this banner. I'm going, Prince, Grammy Awards. I'm going, okay, what's going on? So Jill, talk to us about that. What's that all about?
So apparently Prince has been nominated. His 1999 album has been nominated for a Grammy for. It's in the Best Historic Album category or something like that. So it was kind of a really nice tribute, kind of a nice surprise, you know, because I think they're just spanning different decades of artists and putting it up there. So, yeah, I was very involved in that album, the making of that album. So I'm quite proud of that.
Give us one memory from that, recording that epic music piece.
Lady Cab Driver.
Classics. That song.
It was just such a great time. It just felt like you could do anything. The vibe was great. The synchronicity of life was just working for, I think, absolutely everybody involved. So if you've ever been in that place in your life and all of your friends around you, everything is kind of just flowing steadily, it's quite a rush. You know you're on the precipice of something great, but you don't know what that is. And it was great. He was a leader. He spearheaded the way on that. So yeah.
So people don't feel bad if Aisha's just staying quiet. Both of them are very connected with each other, and they're very connected to Prince. So you see Aisha just nodding her head because she says, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So that may be the most enlightening conversation subject we have all night with what we've got to chat about tonight.
Well, maybe more fun, you know.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? Well, let's get it on. Let's make it happen. So first conversation topic, what else is there to talk about? 45's pardons and everything 45 that's going on these days. So who wants to start about 45 pardons? I know it's going to get into other conversation topics, but let's start about the whole pardon stuff. Who wants to start?
Well, the Flynn pardon wasn't a surprise. And we talked about that last week. It wasn't a surprise. We knew that was coming. The Rudy Giuliani one, I think, is funny. I think it would be funny if Trump didn't pardon him, because he's been messing up so badly. He hasn't given Trump what Trump has wanted. Like, he was supposed to deliver the goods on Hunter Biden, with the Ukraine, and all he ended up doing was getting Trump impeached. And then now he's like not delivering this whole election fraud thing to him. The funny thing about it is that now the woman who was acting really crazy yesterday in front of the legislature, that the thing that
clout
went,
chaser.
yeah, the one that went viral, it came out just a little while ago that she was an actress.
Yeah.
So basically she was hired help.
Yeah. And I said he did a casting call for Karens. I
Yeah.
said it on my Twitter.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. You did say that.
And I read something too that I think during the testimony, I don't know if it was her or somebody else, he told her to keep quiet and went, hush.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think that Rudy's going to get his pardon like he thinks. I think that Trump is going to look out for his adult children first his adult children second to himself.
Yes.
He's going to look out for himself first. And he's going to try that pardon on him. He's going to try to pardon himself. But the Supreme Court's not going to be able to uphold that.
Hold on,
well,
Hold on. The Supreme Court, though, is Republican-based.
It is Republican-based. However, there is a provision in the Constitution that is very ambiguous that reads such that it's almost impossible for him to do it for himself. He can have it done for him, but that would be for him to step down and let Pence do it. But to pardon himself,
he might do it towards like the day before the inauguration.
Right. And the thing about pardoning himself, but then the argument would be that means that the president is then above the law.
Well, isn't 45 above the law?
Apparently so. I would say he is, because now he wants blanket pardons for everybody. Blanket, like,
yeah,
they're asking for something that hasn't been done ever. Of course, he always does. But you're talking about even pre-crime, like these people could be pardoned. Right. He wants the kind of pardon that they could go and commit murder tomorrow and not be tried for it. They could do whatever they want after this point. And I honestly don't think the Supreme Court would support that.
Well, wouldn't cover anything after the pardon, just everything before the pardon. So say Rudy Giuliani did some really shady stuff with the mob 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
It covers that.
Which could never happen, right?
No, never.
Of course not. I mean, not according to that show that's airing on CNBC called New York Empire.
Yes. Good documentary. It's a very good series. Very good series. Let's widen the world of 45.
But can I just say one thing? I would say that just a little tidbit, and they've since, this was a very small headline, but the Hunter Biden laptop, they've since come out, and everything that they claim to have found on it originated from a different source. It was put on that laptop, and that has come out. Many people might have missed that in case they're even doubting it, but they can tell from, and then the other thing with these pardons, what's kind of getting away from Trump on a really weird level is Sydney. Sydney, what's her last name? Thompson or?
Oh, the lawyer.
Sydney, and you have Lynn Wood popping up, and all this dispute going on with Kemp and all this stuff.
Down in Georgia.
What some people have been talking about is that Trump has kind of run across another breed of people that were not really in his inner circle. It sort of branched out with Rudy, but they're even maybe more opportunistic than he is, which is why he keeps throwing them under the bus. Because Sydney, this is just her new book. I mean, it's kind of, everybody is already saying it's going to be her new book, to always say, she put out one about Mike Flynn, and now she's put out this one. So, and now there's another dude, Mo in Alabama, who's trying to get the Republican senators and congressmen and women to side with him, to stop have another election or whatever. That's what Mike Flynn piggybacked on top of that. But then at the same time, you have the Washington Post that has been sending out things like, do you think Joe Biden, who won the presidency? Who will you support? And the feedback has been Joe Biden. And what's really interesting is Carly Fiorina posted hers today, the Republican woman who had, so they're slowly starting to come around, but yeah, you can
But
go
Carly
on with the
Fiorina
pardon.
was one of those. She was one of those who voted for Biden, though.
Yeah, she did. And, businesswoman. And she does have some kind of respect somewhere. But yeah, the pardons are getting away from Trump on a real issue. So you're right.
Yeah.
He might consolidate back down and just focus on his family members. Might be safer.
Yeah, because once he starts going, because there's the fear of looking like he's guilty, and once he starts pardoning more people outside of his family, he starts to look guilty. And
Yeah, but he's also doing pay for play, which we know just came out recently,
right.
where there is a document that was filed in court in August of someone with their attorney broaching, like, could they pay to
For
get a
pardon.
pardon?
And that's the other
Yes.
reason.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be the other reason why he doesn't do pardons outside of his family.
And
Yeah,
that might be why he also pardoned Rob Blagojevich, or whatever his name was,
Blagojevich.
around that time.
Yes.
If we go back to August and go, what was happening? Then Rob all of a sudden, because he pardoned him to make it like, this is not a big deal, because Trump always sets up the game. So when you hear it down the line, you're like, oh, but that's just normal.
Yeah, there was a story this week where that pardon like alleged scandal, and all the names have been just blanked out.
Blacked out,
The whole
redacted.
file's been
The whole
redacted.
file.
Yeah.
Like, what was the what was the use of even releasing it?
Well, I
It's
know
just
that Daniel Goldman, who is one of the lead counsel at the White House, or for the Democrats,
Right.
For the Dem Party, he basically inferred some things, because these attorneys can kind of read just a little bit and see, like, so the thing that's unclear is, well, the attorney representing this person, it's now come out that they think that person is already incarcerated. So we're looking at whatever group that was that got thrown in jail. But what's interesting is they had an attorney go to start this process of offering a bribe. And the bribe basically is another quid pro quo, which is Trump's middle name,
Right.
Donald Quid Pro Quo Trump, who basically they donate to the campaign.
Yes.
So that's the way that it's being laundered. So if he already knows those ways to skirt, you can only imagine what he really needs to pardon his children for, because he's trained them like little freaking Jack Russells, to hunt things down and to be exactly like him.
Yeah, and Ivanka already did a deposition about the campaign funds and how they were misspent, and they overcharged the government.
Yes.
They overcharged the government to host an inaugural event at a Trump property.
Always.
So I think that when it comes to the pardons, he's going to really stick to family, and I think what's going to happen is that the pardons are going to get away from him, because he is on this campaign of hurt right now, where he's so stuck in his hurt feelings because he can't believe he lost. Because, like I said last week, I believe this man did cheat. And he still is trying to figure out how the hell did I lose?
Aisha, what are you talking about? 45 cheats?
Well, I think that when we get to talking about that 45-minute diatribe,
let's talk about it now.
Yeah,
I think that he told us exactly how he cheated in it. He went into some details. He went into some serious details about how this could possibly have happened.
It's true. And that's what he does. But he always snitches on himself.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we'll talk about the pandemic later, but there are people dying. There are people in hospital beds. Hospitals are full in your
He
country.
doesn't care.
And this gentleman is the leader of the country is talking about how the election, he got cheated. Wow.
He doesn't care. And then he's also upset when we talk about the pandemic, how England is doing their stuff before anybody really. I mean, it's so interesting because Ivanka and her husband are clearly under some weird impression. I hope they got the message, because some friends of mine in New York contacted me and they're going to send me the pictures. There's pictures all over.
Yes,
with them.
I've seen them.
Don't come back.
Don't come.
They're
I've
like,
seen that.
really, they are the pariah. I mean, they may find some real messed up criminal types who still want to be in the fray of high society.
Yes.
And people who will use them because they'll know that they need to buy their way back in. There will be some people who want to make some money off of them, but they'll always have people laughing at them behind their backs, always. And you know, it's something that their own children will have to live down, because some of the old money people who didn't like Trump to begin with, this is not their cup of tea.
So, and you know who's waiting for him. You know who's waiting for him.
The silent assassin, right? The silent assassin, right?
Yes.
How's the relationship between Bill Barr and 45 these days?
Well, that's funny because Trump today would not answer the question, but you can tell when the reporter asked him, "How's how are things between you and Bill Barr?" He's like, "I'll let you know in a couple of weeks." It was like basically like he has a couple of weeks to decide whether or not he's going to fire Bill Barr. You've got 5 weeks. Okay, that's all you have left. I guess he's really bought into this thing that he's really gonna be reelected somehow. But he's like, "I'll let you know in a few weeks." It's obvious. It is obvious. But what I've heard is that when Bill Barr was called in to the office, that Trump really let him have it.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But here's the other thing. Bill Barr doesn't want to lose his license. I mean, something wasn't convincing enough. And also, this really would have been a huge lie. I don't know what he would have done. Even this was something that went beyond. Even after he lied on the Mueller investigation, all of it, either way, Bill Barr is done. Like, his reputation is done. But he must have solidified the only job he can find, and at this point, at this moment, and is trying to rectify and just get the hell out of that, because offers aren't going to be coming in.
I would have loved to have been a fly in the wall in the White House Oval Office with Barr and 45's conversation. That would have been very interesting conversation.
Yeah, Barr was willing to lie. I don't think Barr is willing to go to jail for Trump. You know what I mean? He's willing to lie for him, but not willing to go to jail for him.
Well, also when you start to see everything kind of unraveling there and how unsteady it is, because Trump has no problem with his friends sitting in jail waiting on their pardon.
Right.
And that just seems to be a breaking point for Bill Barr, because Trump still hasn't gone back for Manafort.
No.
At all.
Which is interesting.
Which is very interesting. And we also have to think about what conversations in the middle of everything that Bill Barr lied for him about, what part of it, when did he realize this dude would throw me under the bus? Because we don't know. He could have been talking smack about absolutely everybody behind their backs.
Yeah. And you have to wonder what possessed Trump to go and pardon Flynn before Manafort.
Good question. It's a good question. Well, like Aisha, though, like you said, he's still got 5 weeks. You still got 5 weeks.
I know.
Anything else that has impressed either one of you really about Mr. 45? Anything else?
Well, about the pardon, Melania has not been mentioned in
That's
terms of the
what
pardon.
I found so funny.
That's kind of curious.
Why?
Well, she's just as dirty as the rest of them.
Why do you say
make no
that?
mistake?
Why do you say that?
Well, here's the thing. She might not. I think for people to believe that she's docile and just diminutive and has no skin in this game is wrong. She was just as much a birther as Trump. She was instrumental in trying to push and get him into the White House as everyone else. He didn't come down that escalator with Ivanka. He came down that escalator with Melania.
Right.
And when you listen to the tapes of her friend, the tapes that her friend taped of the conversation between the two, you get the inkling that this woman is just as much a criminal as the rest of them. And when there's rumors about her going back to renegotiate her prenup before they went into the White House, this woman is around where all of this goes down. She hears everything. If she's the only one that they say that can convince Trump to stop this nonsense that he's on, then she knows a whole lot more than anyone else. And we know she doesn't sleep with him. We know she doesn't even live at the White House. So
and we know that she doesn't care that he sleeps with other people.
Right.
So I mean, clearly, it's probably an open relationship.
Exactly. So clearly she's around when the business stuff is going down. Because she's looking out for two people, herself and Barron.
Yeah, that I would agree. That part I agree with you.
I mean, she even put the half together of the regular Christmas this year.
No blood trees.
Yeah, no blood trees or whatever Satan sacrifice she was doing every year, which is why I still think she was no better, you know.
Before we move on,
and don't forget the children. Don't forget the children.
What she said about the kids. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This has been the most barren White House ever. I mean,
barren?
There are barren.
You use that word barren, eh?
It's barren. It's barren. It's
she cut down she cut down Jack Kennedy's rose bushes.
But it's like there's no activity, there's no life. It's dead. Like everything in there worships death. It's like there's no Christmas things where people come and they visit. It's a very cold place.
For 4 years, yeah.
For 4 years, there's no cultural arts. There's nothing there. It's just...
No state dinners, no invitations to have celebrations of song and the arts like the Obamas did. No private invitations for somebody to come. But then again, you gotta remember who it is. He can't get people to perform for him. Remember?
I mean, he can pay him. You know, he's no different than any other. The way people go for these oligarchs.
All his hip hop friends.
Well, I think that he
I'm just asking.
Has shown his behind, very much so. And when we talk about, like, if we want to go into why I think he fast forwarded 5 Black people's death penalties, which I think, you know, if they committed the crimes, it's horrible. But to take somebody else's life, no matter what you feel, is a pretty intense thing to do. And I would think that you'd have to go to your God and make peace with that. He doesn't have a problem, but he fast-tracked that. And I really feel like those people got fast-tracked because he's mad at our community for not voting for him. He knows because it's come out even now, just so you guys know, I think that Joe Biden is second in line still to the most votes to Barack Obama. So Barack Obama surpassed even 81 million, which is where Joe is today. But it's still, so the fact that he's thinking, he keeps trying to play it off of that. No, son. There were people who voted. This is actually quite normal. You know, the thing is, they didn't vote for you. And get that through your head. They didn't vote for you. Not all the Black people. They went and they all piled on. and voted for Joe Biden. They were not going to vote for him. So
Like
yeah,
they-
where are
yeah.
his rapper friends? They took their little money, their $1 million, I'm sure, which we know he offered some 500,000. I guess they won't get to go to an inauguration because, but he's just trash. He's just trash.
Like they said, the math isn't mathing, so he can't seem to get it. He can't seem to get it. He's like counting. You know that meme of the little boy, which is not really a little boy. It's actually a grown man. He's actually a grown man, and he's counted. That's Trump, because all he ever talks about is the 74 million people. He wants to protect the votes of the 74 million people. That's what he said in his Facebook talk last night.
I mean, Barack Obama
74 million people,
100 million voting for him.
Yes, but
and
forget
inconceivable. The same group of people, we all got up and voted for Joe Biden. That is not a difficult math problem.
Right,
but we don't like you.
But Trump doesn't think that people who don't like him exist.
That's true.
That's
he sure did find out, didn't he? And
he,
so,
he
like
did.
I said, I think as petty as he likes to be, that he will either go make another human sacrifice by having all these people fast tracked into death row by firing squad and electrocution, and poisonous gas was another one.
Yeah.
He's a mercilessly cruel person. I think that taking someone's life has got to be the most serious thing you could do. I heard Gavin Newsom speak about it once, and it is something that a person has to be actually comfortable with. And we also know that some of the cases that were there are some questions about how the trials were conducted. Not all of them, but some, yes. Let's just address the real issues, that we have some seriously mental health issues in this country that are abhorrent. I mean, we tend to deal with just the top layer. And Trump loves to expose the top layer of anything. He's not a deep thinker. He's really not.
No, not at all.
But
and on top of
his whole time in office, he's just been snorkeling and making a big deal out of whatever he finds on the top of the surface.
But on top
any deeper, just snorkeling.
But on top of all this, then is still begging for a job that he's not doing. This is the part that gets me.
He's
you want to prove that you want the job. You want to prove that you want the job. You already abandoned it.
He did. And now he's upset because England has moved forward with their COVID vaccine.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Now, before we move off of your friend 45, this is going to be our new semi-regular question here. I'm just putting up on the screen.
You can't run from jail.
So for those people who are unable to watch us and just listening to this, I just put up on the screen, will 45 run in 2024? Because there are now news reports that 45 is going to announce his candidacy for 2024, either the day before or the day of Joe Biden's inauguration.
I think white women will keep him in the black for a bit. He will get all of their money to help pay for his legal fees.
Which he's doing with all these protests against the election. That's just
he probably won't even pay all of these attorneys, because here's the interesting thing. He's used so many different attorneys from there's only so many firms you can use. And let's really be honest here. How he got away with some of the things in bankruptcy were because other attorneys were conflicted out here, there, whatever. It's like he does this and he pisses on all of them, so that you're like, okay, wait a minute, what are we going to do? And the Justice Department needs to sort this out. But unfortunately, it will penalize other people.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Joe, because again, I was listening to another report. I was listening to NPR, and apparently there was a game plan to contest this election, and there were top line lawyers ready to do that. But 45 called in Mr. Black Juice. And basically the message was to Giuliani, go knock some tables over.
Well, he did.
So all the top lawyers that were interested in helping out, they backed off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And now what he's left with is that just plays out on TV like a Saturday Night Live skit every day.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he started letting Rudy flex. And, this just, if he can't even manage this, then what the hell has he been doing for 4 years? Absolutely nothing.
all right.
You
So
know,
No, he won't
okay.
run in 45, not only because you can't from jail, but all those civil suits, he won't have the money to.
Okay. Well, Real Dango says, "Ha! Staggers with daggers. You can't run from jail." Ha! Staggers. I'm gonna have to make sure now to put that. Staggers
that's a
drop
good
for
one.
daggers. I like that. You're on point, real one. You're on point. Let's move on to our next conversation topic. So let's go to the other party, the one that's coming into power, and let's ask this question. Are the progressive left going to sabotage the Biden-Harris administration?
It's possible.
I think it's a very distinct possibility. And the reason I say that is because they're not even inaugurated yet. They're not even in office yet. And then yet you have some opposition coming in already. Already with the mouth, already getting the attention and the news attention before we even get the Senate, control of the Senate. And the thing is, you have to wait and see, because we don't know what normal looks like. These new people coming in don't really know what a normal government looks like from the inside. And
they don't. And we said that before. They don't. They came in total disarray, right?
Right. They came in total disarray. And unfortunately,
the coffee table was there. The kitchen was over there.
Exactly.
Like
and
sandwiches in the toilet. It was all wrong.
And there was really no time for people to pick up and mentor them through the way that that was a possibility in the past, because everybody's hair was on fire.
Right.
And so I think you have a lot of people coming in talking and raising a ruckus, like we're going to come in and we're going to push through and we're going to do this and do this. That's not really the way change is made. Change isn't made just because people come in and make it, make a big mess and things change quickly. Change always happens incrementally. If you look at the time between the bus boycott in 1955 and then the passage of the Voting Rights Act, that was a 10-year period. Okay, that was 10 years between the time that happened. So change is incremental. So is the progressive left going to sabotage the Biden-Harris administration? If they don't slow their roll, yeah.
I mean,
if they don't sit back in the cut and say, you know what, let's wait and at least see what happens on day one. He said what he's going to do in his first 100 days. Let's see what he does in that first 100 days. If he doesn't make his first 100-day promises, then we need to hold his feet to the fire and say, look, you said you were going to do this in this first 100 days and you haven't. That's when you start holding people accountable. You can't hold him accountable.
But if we don't deliver Georgia for him, then we can't hold him accountable for 100 days.
Exactly.
And that's just so everybody kiss your dreams goodbye, kiss everything you thought what you knew to be real, because if Republicans control the Senate, then we have a big problem. Let's not forget also that these girls, and they don't want to take the responsibility for their failures. And I love the squad. Do I think they're the main focus in the House of Representatives? They shouldn't be, because there's some other really capable people who should be getting more press, in my opinion. I mean, let's see.
Like Lauren Underwood.
Like there's Cindy Axne, who is in Iowa, who is in a really vulnerable position if we don't take care of her before 2022. We have other people who they've already got. Cori, what's her face, coming in. Cori Bush. coming in and confronting Barack Obama, President Obama, because of the defund the police comment. And in my opinion, it's like, I don't need so much mouth. I don't need to see your day-to-day pissing matches on Twitter. I don't want that anymore. This was an anomaly. This should not become normal. This beating up your citizens, this back and forth. Hold yourselves with some kind of dignity and esteem. You know, it's like Ilhan. I like her, but every time you ruffle her feathers, she has to jump bad. Like, don't you think, you know, like, it's always like, I don't want to do it, because the problem is, little girls, you all still do not have it covered. You have not, you put together a bill, which is amazing, about rental, taking care of rental and canceling rental and mortgage payments. However, the bill on a level is great. I'm glad they put it together. However, what's revealing about their bills is it reveals this lack of reality, a little thing called reality. It's like they haven't ever lived, or they are not taking into consideration people who are even a little older or ahead in the game, who have certain stock things, who have their houses with their second mortgages. These are things that these young people, I think what I'm not liking is the lack of consideration for the older generation. I'm not digging that. I will support your way all the way through it, but I don't respect it. And then the defund the police thing, I'm sorry, the messaging was wrong. I found myself explaining it here one day, and I felt like, because I was like, well, defund the police means that it's not defund, it's to really reform. And you take all these programs, because you see, policemen have been reverted as being psychologists and stuff. Nobody wants to hear a book. You know, I've worked in advertising. If you have to explain your taglines, that ain't it, Chief. That is not how it goes. If, you know, it has to resonate with each person because here's the thing, why the messaging was off. And this is generally the real thing here. And why did MAGA work? Make America Great Again? Because Donald Trump, MAGA, knew its audience. The other one, defund the police, it's not targeting an audience. It wasn't clear with the audience. MAGA resonated because it was a bunch of white folks who were remembering back in the day sipping mint juleps while, you know, Miss Butterfly McQueen was serving you on some puff pastries. You know what I'm saying? So Make America Great was a tagline that worked because it rang in the ears of white supremacists. And that's who the target audience always was. So when you go and you want to start branding and targeting, you need to know your audience. That's how you do it. So with Black Lives Matter and all of that, I appreciate them wanting to, you know, explore this and defund the police. Then some people were like, abolish the police, and it just went too far. That, for me, and I agree with President Obama, the audience got lost because it is not defined. And let me be honest too, they have enough damn money to have figured this out. To hire people, to come up with the proper taglines, to do all the branding, the brand awareness, and who your target audience, the segmentation, the demographics. There's no excuse for it. And now they all want to moan and attack him. And I find them airing their dirty laundry a little bit nauseating, because in a minute, somebody's going to get their heads bitten off by the public, because I've changed my direction on a few of them. I've already moved to looking at Ayanna Pressley because I find her stable and I don't find her emotionally reactionary all the time. Yeah. There's other people. And if Cori Bush is listening, she should get it together and keep her own identity. Everything is not always like, let me defend. Just be right with the measures and listen to other people who have more experience on some things.
I just thought it was...
Because nobody is debating the policies.
Right.
But the way you presented it determines who's going to listen to the policy. And we lost seats in the House because of it. So that's where we lost. And that was not good.
I just thought it was rich that Cori Bush confronted Barack, yes, we can, Obama, about messaging. That's all I got to say. I just thought that was rich because obviously the man knows how to come up with a slogan.
Well, he
Yes,
said
yes,
something
we
in his
can.
interview that he thought "Yes, we can" was corny, but
Yeah,
Michelle told him,
it worked.
you should listen to this because it was the messaging. And
Yeah,
let's not forget, Sammy Davis Jr. wrote a book called "Yes, I Can," and I
yeah,
read that book. And I'll tell you something. Those are really, words are so incredibly powerful, but I do not want to see my elected leaders anymore showing their asses online like this. I've
yeah.
kind of had enough of it. And I also want you to do your job. And I don't want everything to be played out in a public forum because you loose lips sink ships. Playing it out for the public here, that doesn't work anymore. Go behind people's backs, figure out ways to work together, make it work. Because
Well,
now they're selling $58 t-shirts about
yeah,
eating the rich or doing something to them. I don't know.
yeah,
Pay
and
taxes.
yeah, and I find that funny too because here she's selling these $58 t-shirts, and then people are saying, well, what about your what about legislation? Why aren't you doing legislation? And she says, well, we have a bill on the table right now for this. That's not, you're not sponsoring that bill at all.
And it
And
also means that
I'm tired of
it's
AOC
true.
taking credit. I'm really tired of her taking credit and saying we are doing this when
Right.
you're not sponsoring stuff like that.
No, you have
Then
to. I feel that people who are serving should have their name at least on two, or at least two pieces of legislation every year that they're there. I just don't feel, or something, because this is all a bunch of mouth and it's like inciting. So what happens is,
right,
if the Democratic Party, it's like, don't then just say, I've always find myself trying to defend, but I'm a little tired of it because they're getting too long in the tooth now and they're in the game that they know what they're doing. And she does need to pass some legislation. It's very important because if you can't work with others in the sandbox, I don't care how many pretty pictures you're drawing over in the corner,
yeah,
you
and,
know?
and I agree with you on the Omar legislation because I mentioned that to you today.
You said yes, and I went
Like
through.
like wait a second. What about the people who are landlords? Like I
She's
was saying,
out
like
of touch.
my grandparents who this is their income. They
Hmm.
worked real hard. They bought a property. Now they use that in their old age as income.
And not once in their
There's no mortgage.
congressional, but I thought about you today because not once, even during the congressional hearings with Mnuchin and um, uh, Jerome Powell, did the only person who really went in about that. Everybody's like, people are starving, they can't eat, they can't do whatever. But Steve Lynch from Massachusetts, Representative Stephen Lynch, was the only one who said, I saw you all rally around the banks in 2008. And
Right.
he is not Mr. Ivy League with he is like which you kind of like the vernacular, you like the tone because it's very down to earth. And he was like, I saw you all make things happen. What is going on? And he also spoke about, and not just him, Cindy Axney brought it up as
Yeah.
well. There are people who are landlords and they can't pay to the banks. What are you doing? And that's not true. So you're absolutely right. So I found Ilhan's package a little bit not so great. It didn't cover everything. And I thought there's a tone deafness because, like, girl, did you not put it together that if you're making people not pay rent, that who's paying who? The banks? If you want to put a moratorium on the banks, then maybe that's the bill. Maybe that's what you should have put across. Like, we just, with the feds, why
Right.
don't you do that? Why
Because
don't you cover those mortgages?
not everyone who owns a rental home is rich.
Right. And strategically, it just didn't really make sense to me, which is like after I thought about it, I mean, I'm like, yay, I'm glad you did it. But after I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, that
The
may
missing
not
part.
been the best strategy here because you're already battling over the programs that Mnuchin and Powell, they're split already about what to do with this extra $455 billion and all of that. So why not go in and utilize something for that other than, create a program? Because we don't need your piece of legislation as much as we need another program to release the damn money.
Okay, I'm gonna cut here because we're gonna get to more of this down the line in regards to stimulus package. Aisha, I know Jill talked about it, but we'd like to get your thoughts about the criminal justice reformers losing a big audience with the defund the police rhetoric, according to Barack Obama. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I always agreed. I think when you have to explain exactly what you mean by that. If you didn't mean defund the police and you meant reform it, then say what you mean. Mm-hmm. Don't go and use a word that means something different when you don't mean what that word is defined as. If you didn't mean defund, then don't use the word defund. The problem is that a lot of those people who started using that word defund meant exactly what they said.
You're right.
And you had people going back, trying to walk it back when they saw that they were losing mainstream support. And
it also was radicalized because it also was coming right at the time I'm watching my city being destroyed from, and let's be honest, there were people looting. There really were people stealing. We just had a situation where they found a bunch of people stealing from the EDD, the Employment Department. And unfortunately, they're African-American people who did it. So we can't always jump to like, oh man, that's outrageous. There's some cobwebs in our corner here that we do have to acknowledge and really stand up and say, no, that's not cool either. Because I'm not going to just, give you a free pass because there has been systemic racism, because I've come to discover that people take advantage of that too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I do believe that it was something that got away from people when they really meant it.
Okay. Well, also, before we move on to our next conversation topic, I want to shout out to Kinte Ferguson. Thanks for chiming in. Long time, brother. Have not seen or heard from you. Hope you are fine. You, your mother, and your family. Well, let's get to this subject. The growing tragedy around the coronavirus and the vaccine. Again, I was listening to the online today, listening to the mayor of Los Angeles, which is probably close to where Jill lives, saying city is in total lockdown. Who could have ever thought we'd see in our time Los Angeles totally locked down? I've been listening to reports all through the week, people working frontline in hospitals, hospital administrators saying, soon we're not going to have any room left in our hospitals for anybody.
It's true. I mean, it's really, really sad because it is in lockdown, but will people actually stand by it? We also have why they report on the television news and say, but sheriffs won't be enforcing it because they don't agree with it. For me, that's where the media sucks. It's like, do you even have to report that? Just if I'm driving outside for a long ass time and I don't have a mask on, nobody stops me and I'm walking everywhere, I'll kind of figure it out myself, but you don't have to advertise it. And that's a little bit of like a disappointing thing. We have people who, unfortunately, with some of these parties that are going on with the Airbnbs and stuff, I truly believe that people are throwing these parties to raise money for their rent and their mortgages.
Well, what about Mr. Pompeo's parties coming up?
Yep, 900 people. Now, he ain't doing it to raise no rent. He's just trying to, I guess it's going to be a Caligula party for them.
Does he know 900 people?
It's going to be, burn the house down,
Their
party.
kids going to it, though. Come on now.
That's okay. They're going to sacrifice them.
Oh, Lord.
I don't know. We don't know. It's just such a bizarre thing to do. And I think that child services should be called. If you subject your children to something like that, I think that's crazy.
what's like, I'm living here in Canada, and like we've got the shutdowns and all that stuff. There isn't a lot of pushback, but we're getting to the point too that health administrators are getting very concerned. But I'm looking at America and I'm going,
why the pushback?
Well, not only the pushback, but why the people just staying out of it totally, who have the power to make a difference in this?
Because they don't know which side of the coin somebody's going to be on in the days to come. They're playing the...
Well, let's put it this way. It starts at the top.
Yeah, it does. It
started at the top a long time ago, all because this president thought, think about it. It was all for naught, because it started out because he thought that this would tank the economy and would ruin his chances at re-election. And it ruined his chances at re-election anyway for not doing anything.
That's the thing.
That's the thing that should burn a lot of people's behinds, is that either way, it screwed up his chances of re-election. And so people died anyway. People died as a result. So he wasn't gonna win either way. When you look at it, he wasn't gonna win either way. But people died this way.
But also, he's been experiencing how leadership, global leadership, we know that they used to clown him anyway, but now it's like they've like switched off the TV and they've gone on about their business, and they're rolling out their plans. And I think that what's happened is that's where that competition comes into, where they're like, okay, enough. We have some serious stuff to take care of. And it really means the economy, they're looking forward.
Real Dango saying, I'm hoping Georgia goes on lockdown as soon as possible. There's too many people down here acting dumb by not wearing masks or social distancing. I had to act a guy to go back to his car before approaching me in my driveway.
Yeah, good. Keep making them. I mean, it's so sad, because I think that's what they ultimately always want. That's a calculated effort, and that did work against Trump. But
the numbers are going up.
Yeah,
every day.
But they already knew this was going to happen back in May. They said that come the fall, the fall was going to be worse.
Second wave.
We already knew this was going to happen, and because we knew it, they did nothing to insulate us from it.
But it's something about just the American sensibility is you have to really just address that. It's something like, I don't know if their brains are fried from watching people die every day when they're playing video games, frontline or whatever it's called, some kind of craziness. But I really do think that, watching movies of zombies, all of it, it doesn't bother them. Seeing death doesn't bother them. This is like after 9/11, you would have thought, like I told you, everybody was just horrified. But somewhere after that, they've just become very numb and they don't care. They don't really give a damn. And that's just really the weight of that is something you have to really think about. They just don't give.
Yeah, but they've never really seen live death, and that is, I think, the thing with all people are desensitized.
No, they've shown them in the hospitals. Aisha, I'm sorry. I honestly think that American people just vote with their pocketbooks. Mm-hmm. But as a humane group of people, I'm not so sure. I think that they've shown how dirty their drawers are with this president. And everybody, it's like, it's pretty bad. All the traditions are fake. The religions are false. It's so jaded, and there's no decorum. There's no respect for authority. There's none of it. Everybody is, Kevin Hart has a really great special out at the moment. And he made a joke about being famous and how when he was young, he wanted to be famous and do this job. And he said, social media. He goes, now everybody is doing it. And, there's some crazy people, like really crazy people. And you have the accessibility is like closer than 6 people removed. It's not
Yeah.
even, and the amount of fame and clout chasing you get. I mean, all these people who were testifying at all these hearings this week, Arizona, Michigan, whatever. If you really look at the clout chasing, the sycophantic celebrity that comes with it. So they're all over Parler, and they're a celebrity for however long it becomes their claim to fame, 52,000 followers. It's a sickness. It is something that I will continue to say, this needs to be regulated. But if we keep it, the social media needs to be regulated. But we also know that Trump wants to get rid of the NDAA part so that he could probably sue their asses. So we know that it can be done, but it has rotted people's brains. It's rotted them. Here in America, particularly, I don't know what it is. I'm sorry to blab on so much, but I really do feel I wouldn't if I had a pet flea, I don't know if I would let somebody like babysit them here in America.
Okay. Jill is on
But
fire. Go ahead.
I think the thing with the virus though, that is the other thing that really is getting to people is that this disconnect, is that we know that Biden's going to do something, but we have these weeks to wait out, and in these weeks we get to see more tragedy because Trump is just not going to do anything.
But we also have the misinformation campaign still running. I found a few people in some of my threads talking about, England has it where Pfizer has an indemnification clause so that, if it was so safe, why would they give that to Pfizer? Well, what a lot of people don't realize about pharma, since I worked in pharma, there is a thing here about vaccines that America has, and it's called the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. And the government actually pays the compensation should something go wrong. And I think between 2013 and 2017, the average payment to people was like $430,000. I think there were $239 million worth of case settlements. But for this virus, which I believe probably all the governments, is a little different, because you're looking at, it's called the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. So with countermeasures, it's because they've requested it. It's there for epidemics, pandemics, and I'm sure, but you see, it is set up that way so that qualified pandemic or epidemic products that have to be used because of security or safety or for whatever reasons. But getting that across to the masses, it's like the media will write just a little bit of this explanation. And I know people have these stories, but it's kind of like saying, you don't even know what's going on with vaccines in your own damn country. Now, I'm pretty sure because of a pandemic being, something that every single government in the world was like, please, we need this. They definitely have the countermeasures injury program set up, and they probably all are going to have to deal with that, because it's not that it's completely mandated to take, but it's definitely something that would be in your best interest to do. We have so many people who don't believe in vaccines, who are still pushing that autism is from vaccines. I don't know, and everything else, but finding the right, we don't seem to respect experts in their field anymore. We're very mistrustful. And I attribute a lot of that to our media and Hollywood and all of it, because who knew that people's minds were like sieves here? Who knew?
Real Dango is saying until some people's friends or family members die from COVID-19, that they'll start realizing that COVID-19 is real and should be taken seriously.
But that's not even true.
Because
a friend
of mine was telling me his grandfather, his friend came into town, didn't believe in it. He came into town for a funeral, his own grandfather's funeral, and he was like, your grandfather died from it and you don't believe. He goes, oh, it's a hoax. It's not real. He goes, he died of COPD anyway. So it's like they go with the comorbidities. But let's be honest, anytime your body is deficient anyway, when your immune system drops, that's kind of you're vulnerable.
It's a warning sign.
So who's to say if the apple came, if the egg, is it the egg or the chicken, which came first?
The chicken, the egg, yep.
Right. So everybody's using just the comorbidity, I can't even say it properly, as just an excuse, but pneumonia comes from what? I mean, it's like if you're sitting out in the freaking snow in Minnesota and it's or in Canada and you can't get in your house and you get, frostbite and your toe falls off. What are you going to say? Well, that toe wasn't really very good anyway. It was a wonky ass toe. So, I don't know what the thinking is. We're trying to save lives here, not just sort of throw them on the wood pile and just go, she had lupus anyway. I mean, that's just callous.
I think the funniest thing about the vaccine, it's not funny, but it's comical in that Trump is upset because the three of the presidents said that they would take the vaccine on television. And he thinks that they're trying to plot against him, to take credit away from him, from his vaccine.
They should. He did nothing. I know I had a friend the other day who goes, well, he did sort of get it together. And I was like, no, he didn't. I was like screaming on my phone at her. I was like, no, he did not. He gets nothing. He's Johnny come lately at the party. You done set up everything. And then he takes credit for the damn party. Hell no. This, the interesting thing, which I wanted to say about COVID is that they do know that one of the side effects that's kind of disturbing, but one of the real realities here is, there may be people who will suffer side effects and there might even be people who die. I mean, let's be honest. There's a whole group of people. They've done the best that they can. HPV had a group of people who died with the vaccine out. You never know how anyone's going to respond. Right. However, people are going to learn a lot when it comes to then they'll be outraged about how you choose who lives, who dies. But that's what they've been doing this whole time. The reality is that this virus, they've detected, they don't know how long it lasts in the body because look, it's not even a year old. The other thing which is interesting to note is that some of the side effects that are staying with the long haulers is that it totally keeps the body in a suspended state where it thinks that it's still fighting the illness and it's out of the body. So it's almost like it does something to your autoimmune system. So, I think it's great that our presidents are going to go and do this on television, but there'll be a whole group of people that say, those aren't real shots. That's water. That's not real.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's move on to our last conversation piece, which is somewhat related to what the ladies were just talking about, the status of a stimulus package and the congressional hearings being held about it. So all of a sudden now, the Senate is thinking about passing a legislation because they don't want to be looked at doing nothing and the end of the year comes up, because I think a lot of people's benefits are run out at the end of the year, and
31st.
Yeah, there'll be fire if nothing is passed.
Well, that's because 6 days later there's a Senate election and they want to maintain control of the Senate. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Okay, so if we look at the history of this, the Democrats came up with a big, huge package. 45 said yes, then no, and then wanted to scale it back. Then the two parties went their own separate ways. The elections happened. Now it's back to negotiation. But I hear the most powerful man in America, Mitch McConnell, you don't really know if he's going to support it or not.
He tried to, not have them go on break today. This is what they fought today in Congress, was the fact that he wanted to break. So he has no intention of signing anything or pushing for anything. His intention today Our actual congressmen and women and everyone fought in the Senate. They fought today about him not going on, calling the session over until the beginning of the year.
So let me ask, say nothing's resolved. What effect will that have on Georgia?
If nothing is resolved, Warnock and Ossoff, that's it. They're in.
They are in. And also, you're right, Trump is supposed to go down there when? Tomorrow
weekend.
or this weekend?
I'll have to. I'll see when I believe it, because I just think Georgia's so.
The disturbing thing about Georgia is it was a huge turnout for sure, but it really wasn't enough either. There are still people who are unregistered.
Yep.
People in the African American community, though, the younger people, I just don't know where their heads are.
So why isn't this next stimulus package not going anywhere? Why?
Well, because of the $455 billion. You have to remember when they did the first stimulus, Steve Mnuchin had this, and the Republicans have been really praising him for what he did. He got full total control over that money, like the distribution of it. Steve Mnuchin. So when it went to the feds, like he got this kind of control that they say that he lied at the hearing and said he had to return what was not spent of it back to it's the ESQ, I guess.
The general fund.
The general fund. Yeah. But we have a really big problem here because we're talking about the feds only funded $25 billion, isn't it? It's really, but there's 455. They're claiming that there's really only 174 that's untouched. But if they capture this other 300, that brings it to like 455. But the problem is all this little mathism, as Aisha said, is that he said he was required by law to have the feds move the 455 billion and if it in the unspent emergency pandemic. But basically, if he does that, it affects the Biden administration coming in because they can't touch it. And that is what we're kind of struggling because he also wants to end all the programs. Now, even Jerome Powell is split on this because he feels that we're not out of the woods with the pandemic. We're just getting the shots. We don't know what's going to happen. He projected it'll take about even 6 months to really just get an idea on how this is happening with job creation, with recovery from the vaccine, or how is it working. And it doesn't make sense to take this pot and to put it back into the general. So, and I think that's a fair thing to say, but this is really a very unusual thing for those two to be like this. But Mnuchin is a liar, and he even sat up there and said, if I wanted to be political, I could have done X, Y, and Z, but everyone was saying in the CARES package, it said you don't have to return, you would return by the end of 2026 any of the unspent funds. But my whole point is, how the hell are you going to keep messing people around who have lost their homes and their mortgages and holding back? Where was this money? I mean, they're so hell-bent. It's kind of shameful that it was only $25 billion. It's shameful. And all anybody got was, monies from, and Trump withholding monies from the states with all of this. It was too much. That's Trump. He withheld so much of the federal release of these funds, so they can go to hell. That money belongs to the people, as Cindy Axne said today. It's not your money, Mnuchin. It belongs to the taxpayers. And she was damn right. And that's the story. Her and Katie Porter and Stephen Lynch destroyed them with reality. We need to talk about the senators and the Congress people who are really doing and coming with their homework. AOC was not prepared on this one. I got to tell you guys, I was a little bit disappointed. She was not prepared.
Well, this is one reason too why they're coming so hard after Neera Tanden, because she's going to be over OMB. which is
Yes.
oversight.
Yes.
And she's going to know everything that they did with that money.
Exactly.
She's going to know exactly
That's
everything.
If she gets approved, because
If
I
she
hear
gets-
there's a lot of pushback I hear on with Republicans with her.
That's
There's a
why we
lot of-
got to
there's a
get
lot
the
of
Senate
pushback.
and a
That's why-
pushback
that's
with the
why.
Dems too. Let's be honest. A lot of
Yeah.
the Bernie supporting women do not like Nira. They never
guess-
will, and it's
But
unfortunate.
guess what? None of them are in the Senate.
That's true. That's very true. This is the
So-
big kids game.
Yeah. So but that is the reason why people are really pushing back on the Republican side when it comes to her, because she will see all the oversight that had to do with this, with the last administration's economy.
Okay. Well, another episode is finished. The last comment of the night. Real Dango says, "I made my vote and I'm mailing it tomorrow."
Well, thank
So,
you. Is
he's
there?
in
I mean,
Georgia,
we have to encourage more people. If the real Django has any ideas on how we can reach those voters, this is very serious.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, another epic conversation has ended. Thank you so much as always. And before we let you go, we want to know, how is the best way to get in touch? Let's go to the up and coming Grammy Award winner. I'm speaking it already. Jill, how can people get a hold of you?
I am at Jill D. Jones on Twitter, or Jill Jones Music on Instagram and Facebook.
Excellent. And Aisha?
I am at capital
Oh,
AI.
Daggers. I think you need to change that.
Daggers.
I know. I'm at capital AISHA, capital STAGGERS on Twitter, and at AK Staggers on Instagram.
Wonderful. That is fantastic. And it is Dr. Vibe here. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 3-time award winner of online, I guess, online excellence. I don't know, online award, something like that. Whatever you want to call it. Also, too, I host and co-produce monthly online conversations for dads and fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. Remember, host of Epic Conversations, and it's the home of Epic Conversations. I'd like to thank Real Dango, Kinte, everyone who watched or listened to this live on the replay. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. As always, I close off with this: live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. And the 2 last things: if you're able, don't waste this crisis. And then finally, make sure you give yourself grace. And we are planning, the ladies and myself, we're going to have a great end of the year show. So follow us, and we'll be giving details as the end of the year gets closer. Thanks again for watching, and give yourself grace and never settle. Good night, everybody.